Thank you, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for coming to our introductory training, Intro to Microsoft Teams. We're going to talk about how we can be using Teams for meetings and workplace collaboration and so on. And this right now, as I record this, we are in the still in the pilot phase, but the same information should hopefully apply to everybody once we've launched it to the entire institute, which will be happening in March of 2024. So thank you all for coming. We've done our introductions. These are the learning outcomes for today's session. So hopefully by the end of today's session, you will know more about joining and participating in Teams meetings. You've already joined, of course, but we'll talk about various ways we can participate and that sort of thing. I'll take you on a tour of navigating around inside of the Teams apps and where you can find all sorts of information. We'll talk about how to communicate with your colleagues via chat, via team channel postings and things like that. We'll talk about scheduling Teams meetings and also, of course, very importantly for this launch process, how to best convert your existing team Zoom meetings into Teams meetings. And I will also let you know where you can turn for more information and after the session. So everything I'm telling you today is also documented for you. It's in our knowledge base, and I'll show you where you can find that towards the end. All right. So here we all are in Teams already, and I'm going to pull my Teams meeting thing here into view, which can sometimes be a bit distracting because you see yourself with a bit of a delay. You'll notice that because I started the recording, it's also transcribing it for us automatically. And this is something that could be very useful for you. Once a meeting has been recorded, you can actually, there are really solid editing tools for the transcript that can let you fix if people's names are being misspelled and that kind of thing afterward. And if you needed a recording, to put up any kind of YouTube video or anything like that, you can download those captions transcript and put it up, which is a great accessibility tool there. So I'm just going to, I'm not turning off the transcript, but I'm just going to close it. So when we're in a meeting here, oh, hello, and thank you for joining us. So I'm just going to continue with the session. Just like Zoom, Teams has a lot of the same functionality within meetings. It actually has some additional things, and it's missing one or two things from Zoom because they are different products. I would say that Zoom is probably slightly better at meetings because it is a very specialized product and that's what it does. But the advantages to using Teams is the way that it hooks into all of our other systems, that better integration across everything that promotes a whole bunch of advantages. So just like you're used to in Zoom, of course, there is a chat. An advantage to Teams over Zoom is that the chat that we have here in the meeting will actually persist afterwards. So if someone has been putting a whole bunch of links into a chat or what have you, you don't lose that when the meeting closes. You'll be able to refer back to those and find those links afterward. And I'll show you where you can do that inside of the Teams app in a moment. So that's chat. There's a raise hand function, and this is something that I think Teams does slightly better. So I would invite any of you who want to raise your hand. And as you do that, you'll see that as we raise our hands, people will be marked as having a different number. I was hoping one or two of you might be able to do that. Thank you so much, Richard. So as you can see, I raised my hand and it says 1, and then Richard raised his and it said 2, Oleg 3, and it shows us the order, which makes it very easy to just proceed down your speakers list. As well, if I were to stop talking, it would say, it looks like you've stopped talking, and it would automatically put down my hand for me, which is very useful. You could also just click the raise hand function again to turn that off. Just like in Zoom, you've got some reactions that you can send, to say, yep, I'm acknowledging, got that right, that kind of thing. So we can use those sorts of things. Just like in Zoom, we can set up breakout rooms. I'm not going to do that right now, but just to show you, I can, set up however many rooms I want. I can automatically assign them, or I can manually assign them, send people to their rooms. I can communicate across all the rooms to everybody, and that kind of thing. And I can pull people back. In my experience, it's maybe a little bit clunkier than what we had in Zoom, but it does still work. It works very well. And there are some additional things with that you can use. You can set up a poll. I'm not going to cover that here, but there's a link in the documentation for how you can do that. It does look a little bit different than how you're used to doing it in Zoom, but just like in Zoom, you'd need to set that up ahead of time usually. And there are multiple templates for all the different kinds of polls that you might want to use, that kind of thing. And there's a link, as I say, to the documentation for that. And there's also all sorts of sharing possibilities. So right now I'm sharing my whole screen, which is why I can show you my PowerPoint in the background there, but I can sort of pull in my Teams as I have here. Oh, good. I can pull in this Teams window. I can pull in other windows. So it's not just sharing a window, but that is an option that I could also do. I can share just one window, and there's also an option with PowerPoint. So instead of sharing my whole screen with a PowerPoint presentation on it, I could instead use this sharing option called PowerPoint Live. And when I do that, it would let each user, quite often you'll be watching a presentation. I'm sure we've all had this experience, and the person will say some important point, and you're like, oh, I want to remember that. I want to write that down, whatever it is. But then they move on to the next slide too quickly. With PowerPoint Live, if that were to happen, any user who wanted to could, in their own view of it, just back up one slide and see what that previous slide said, or write it down, or what have you. They can navigate backwards and forward for themselves. And this is a real accessibility feature as well, because, I'm sure we've all seen slides where people have maybe too much text, or they've screenshotted something and the text is very tiny, it's hard to make out. If someone were visually impaired, it would be really useful for them to be able to zoom in on that, or spend a little bit more time on that slide and zoom in and, to see it better. And with PowerPoint Live, they can do that. So I'll stop sharing and I'll reshare again, which unfortunately you won't be able to see on the screen here, but you'll be able to see the result. So I will go to PowerPoint Live. There we go. And so now each of you will have your own view of the slides, and you will be able to navigate backwards and forwards in them as you like. Meanwhile, I still control the main view for everybody, so I can still advance through the slides that are being seen by everybody. So there's also whiteboard functionality, which you also get to through the share screen situation. Does anyone have any questions or comments about anything to do with that, interacting within a meeting, that sort of functionality before I go on? No? All right. So I'm going to change how I'm sharing and go back to sharing my whole screen there. And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to pull my Teams window in and talk about how we navigate around inside of the Teams app. Sorry. Pull that up. Here we go. So here is the Teams app. For those of you who have seen it before, you'll already be familiar with many of the things that I might show you, but maybe I'll have an extra thing you didn't know. So Down the left, I've got a bunch of different tabs, and they take me to different aspects of functionality, of course. Right now I'm on the Meet tab, and one of the things that I think is a real improvement with Teams is because of the way Teams is, so closely tied in with all of our other Microsoft products. Sorry, I'll just move that window out of the way. It allows for much more streamlined experience of getting to a meeting. Like, in order to come to this meeting, I didn't have to go and find the meeting invite in my calendar and then open that up and then click on a link, and then it opened in a browser, which then opened it in the app. It's just sort of this endless go round, which for Zoom meetings, and it works, but it's got all these extra steps. Instead, I can just open up Teams, and any upcoming meetings will be displayed right there with a join button if it's available. I can also, usually I'll have access even before I join the meeting to the chat for the meeting, because of course the chat is persistent. It exists before the meeting and it exists after the meeting. So I could quickly open that up and just sort of send a message to everybody saying, oh, I'm running 5 minutes late, I'll join you when I can, that kind of thing. And then if I had recorded meetings or something like that, I'd be able to see those listed here, that kind of thing. If I've got a million meetings all scheduled at the exact same time, and so I don't see the one that I want to join, I can also see that from my calendar. My calendar is always exactly the same as my Outlook calendar, obviously. And if there's a meeting that I can join, it'll have the little join button on it, just like that. And you can see it actually says that I'm in that meeting right now. So this is also very useful. Now, the thing about it having access to your calendar is it also, therefore, always knows what is supposed to be going on with you, at least according to your calendar, right? And you might notice up at the top here, there's a little tiny picture of me, and it's got a little red icon on it that means that right now I'm on Do Not Disturb, which it's set up automatically because I started sharing my screen. So it always bases that on my calendar. So if I was scheduled to be in a meeting, it would show as, busy. If I, the other options, it might say I'm available. And that sort of thing. But I can also, so it does it automatically, but I can also set this for myself if I wanted. I could, for instance, appear not to be here at all. So right now it looks like I'm not even logged into the system, and there's no point even talking to me, right? Because it looks like I'm offline. When I set my status like that, I can set it for a duration. I can say reset it after 30 minutes, an hour, what have you, choose a time. And if I do that, then once that whatever criteria is met, then it will go back to just automatically displaying my availability per my calendar. But if I don't do that, I can also just always click the reset status button and it'll go back to automatically displaying it that way. I can also set a status message, be right back, out for lunch, back in 30 minutes, in training, whatever I want to do, that kind of thing, which you can also set with a status, like a duration as well, and so on. Now, the other advantage and that status message and so on is if I need to turn on my out of office so that people get notified that I'm not going to respond because I'm on vacation or I'm on leave or what have you, I don't have to set it in two places. Whatever I set as my out of office over there will also be displayed in Teams to anyone who tries to contact me. It's all tied together. Now, some questions that we've had in previous sessions are in Zoom, we're able to set our pronouns to display those if we want. You can do that in Teams as well. So here, to get to that view, I just clicked on my face up here, and then if I click here where it says view your profile, it takes me to here. And if you haven't set your pronouns, then you would see a add pronouns button at the top here, but if I have, then you can see them there. And that will be displayed to anyone who clicks on it. It's not quite as visible as it is inside of a meeting as it is in Zoom, unfortunately, but the option is there. Any question about any of this stuff so far? No, we're a quiet group. All right. Now, as I mentioned, the chat for a meeting is going to be persisting afterwards. And that, if I wanted to view that later, I would do that by going to the chat tab here. So if I click on chat, then I will see here is our current meetings chat, right? And it will continue to be there later. So here's a meeting I attended earlier and on another day, and I can still go back and find anything that was in there, any files that were shared, any links, all that stuff is still there. And if it's a recurring meeting, we can communicate with each other about the meeting things in that chat, and we'll be able to see it when we go to the next meeting as well. It persists across all of your meetings if it's a recurring meeting. But other than meeting chats, the other kind of chat that you get here is that direct person-to-person messaging, the equivalent of what we used to have or still have right now, but will no longer have eventually in Jabber chat. One thing that's really important to understand about chat, however, is that chat is going to have a retention policy around it of 90 days, which means that any messages that you send via chat will persist for 90 days only. So if you are trying to talk to your colleagues about something important or work-related, and you might need to refer back to that in the future, chat is not the way to do that. I'll tell you what the way is in a moment, but just so you know, chat will not persist. Now, this is a change to how things function because, as we all know, in Jabber, your chat history is retained for as long as you have the same computer because it's stored locally. Because Teams is cloud-based, that isn't the same, of course. So that's why there has to be a decision made. The decision made is that it's going to be retained for only 90 days, right? So I messaged Richard here just so I'd have an example to pull up. Thank you, Richard. So this is an example of a private message you might send to somebody. We're recommending chat is just for that casual, quick contact, that sort of thing, because it isn't going to be retained. I can actually add multiple people, so I could make a group chat if I just wanted to quickly talk to a group of people about something to coordinate around one specific event, just making sure we've got all the bases covered, that kind of thing, but we don't need to refer back to it later, those sorts of things. I can share files back and forth. I can quickly type a message. So just try again, hit enter, there it gets sent. And if right now it shows that check mark, that means it was sent. If Richard had looked at it in Teams, then I would see it become an eye, it's sort of a stylized eye icon, meaning Richard has seen it. So I can see whether someone has seen the message that I sent or not. So just so you understand that. And if right now I can see, thanks, Richard. There we go. So I can see Richard information here. I can see that Richard right now is busy because he's here in this meeting. And I can send other things. So you might notice under the message thing, I've got this little attach things. This makes it very easy for me to either upload a file and just send a file all on its own, but I can also attach something from my OneDrive. It's all connected together. Or I can quickly schedule a meeting with Richard right from there. I can also set the importance of a message saying, oh no, this is very, very important, or oh my goodness, I'm really trying to get a hold of you, but This, I mean, please use this kind of thing with extreme caution because, you don't, only in really urgent situations, but just to note that you can change the, you can increase the amount of urgency around a message. You can't decrease it or mark it as not important, unlike in email. If this is insufficient editing functionality, if I just click this, it gives me a whole editing toolbar with all those tools, just like it does in lots of other tools. Any questions or thoughts about chat so far? No? So that's chat. Sometimes things that show up in that you have happening in chat might also show up under activity, and your activity feed shows you all kinds of things. So I've selected some of my previous activity, marked it as unread, just to show you here in this meeting. But it shows me all sorts of what happened. It shows me people reacting to things. So a thumbs up or that kind of thing. It shows someone replied to something I sent, or it shows that I was added to a channel, or someone mentioned me. Mentioning functions very similarly to how it does in all the other online tools. I've got a filter that I can either just search for something, or I can say I only want to see certain types of things. You might notice in that I've got things like missed call or voicemail, and you might notice there's also a calls thing over here. So for this initial launch, you're not going to see anything to do with your phone or phone calls or voicemail in Teams. But as a later stage on the Teams launch, eventually, yes, all of those things will be available through Teams. And your phone calls will be able to be made through Teams. You'll be able to access your voicemail through Teams. All of that stuff, it's all going to be tied together. Not in this initial launch and not in March, but by the end of the year anyway. Any questions about the activity feed or any of those things? All right. Now, as I said, chat is not where you want to have conversations that you're going to need to refer back to. But as we launch Teams, and this is perhaps an aside, but I kind of wish that Teams didn't also have Teams inside of it. It makes it very difficult to distinguish between the two. But in Teams, there are also teams. And as we launch Teams, the intention is that everyone will be automatically assigned to a departmental team. And that departmental team, and part of the challenge of this is that there are many kinds of departments at BCIT and many levels of how to determine what a department is. And so sorting out that sort of messy data is a bit of a challenge. But the intention, at least, is that everyone will be assigned to a departmental team, whatever that means for them and their work. And that departmental team will continue to be managed automatically, so that if you were to move from one area of the Institute to another, you would automatically be removed from the team that is no longer appropriate to your work and be added to a different team elsewhere. In addition to those departmental teams, people can also request ad hoc teams. An ad hoc team would be an appropriate use case would be, let's say there's an ongoing institute committee that needs to organize its work. There's people from this department and this department and this department. They all need to work together over time, and they need to have that persistence of information and that kind of thing. So they could request an ad hoc team, and they would be able to use that ad hoc team. Every team, whether departmental or ad hoc, will have a team owner, at least one, but ideally more than one. But to start with, one. For departmental teams, it'll be the manager of the department, whatever that might mean in context. It might be an associate dean, it might be any other kind of level of leadership, whatever is appropriate to that department. that initial team owner can promote other people within the team to also be team owners, which is useful to do because there are certain things that only team owners can do. A team inside of Teams, whether it's a departmental team or an ad hoc team, will have channels. So channels are basically streams of postings of communication channels, right? That you can use to collaborate and talk and discuss and, you know, organize your work around. And the retention policy for that is still pending, but whatever it is, it should be a period of years, possibly up to the life of that team. So that determination is still being made, but it will be retained for much, much longer than the chat. Okay, so in a team, if it's a departmental team, it will automatically be deployed with 3 channels to start: a general channel, an announcements channel, and a random channel. Random meaning kind of your place for water cooler talk or what have you, that kind of thing. Whereas general would be for general work, related departmental work, announcements for if something needs to be announced. But any team member will be able to create additional teams. Now there is a limit on the number of not additional teams, apologies. Team members will be able to create additional channels within a team. There is a limit on the maximum number of channels that you could have, but that limit, you will not be reaching it. The limit is 1,000 channels for a team, so that's quite a few. So within a channel, so I'm using the Pets of ITS channel because I felt confident that likely there would be nothing too sensitive in here for this demonstration. Instead of having it be that sort of back and forth message of chat, people post a channel posting, and then people can then reply to that channel posting. So we've got this channel posting, which has a picture of a dog in it, of course. As you see, people can react to those things, add emojis to react to something. They can also comment on it, and it will keep all of the replies grouped with the channel posting to help organize the conversation. So you're not just losing something because it happened in the lengthy flow of information, you know, top to bottom in a chat. In a channel, replies can be organized and kept with any of these other with the posting that they're associated with. And if people post a file to it, you would be able to see it under files and so on. Any questions, any thoughts about any of this? Nope. All right. So there's more information about managing teams and channels in the knowledge base, and I'll show you where that is shortly. But the next thing I was going to discuss was meetings and setting up a Teams meeting. So let me just pull up my Outlook here. So just like in scheduling a Zoom meeting, once you have been deployed Teams licensing, you'll see this integrated into your Outlook. If you don't see what I'm about to show you in Outlook, you may just need to restart Outlook the first time if it was deployed since you last opened up Outlook. So let's say I wanted to book a new meeting. So let's say I wanted to book a meeting there. It's just a meeting, of course. I can set up whatever time it might be. I could invite whomever I wish to invite. So let's say I wanted to invite Richard there. I'm going to add you just because if I don't add somebody, then I won't be able to demonstrate something else in a moment. I can give it a title, whatever it might need to be. And now I want to add a Teams meeting to this. Well, once you have Teams licensing and you've, if necessary, restarted Outlook, you should see a Teams meeting option up here in the ribbon. If I click on that, it'll just add a Teams meeting. Once I've added it, now I've got a few more options here. There are default options for meetings, but I can also modify them on a per meeting basis. So here are the meeting options. I can add co-organizers who will have the same types of rights that I do. So I could say, I want to add Richard as a co-organizer. Who can present everybody? Well, only organizers and co-organizers may be in this meeting, or what have you. I can allow whether I want people to be able to speak or be seen. I can set up all sorts of things like that as I create the meeting. And then when I'm ready to send it, I just click send. It's just like in Outlook. Any questions about that so far? No? Now, we know that to start with, you may have various Zoom meetings that you need to convert. Now, during this pilot period, I should make a note that while you are part of the pilot and before it has been deployed to everyone at BCIT, we encourage you to keep using Zoom for meetings that include people who are outside of the pilot. But for meetings within your own department, you may well wish to convert those to Teams, of course, which is completely doable. So I'm just going to very quickly set up a previous Zoom meeting. I'm just going to set it up with a Zoom invite for a moment so that I can show you what it looks like to convert it. There we go. So here's this meeting that I wish to convert. So I would just open that up. And of course, as we can see, it's got the Zoom information in two places. And before I add the Teams meeting, I'm going to need to remove it from both places. So I'm going to need to remove it from the location and remove it also from the body of the description area. And then I can just add in a Teams meeting. Right. And I'm going to save that. Yes, that's fine. And once I've done that, you'll see that now there is the Teams meeting in both those locations where previously there was Zoom. In my experience, this is just a tip, I guess. If you don't remove the Zoom from both those places, if you leave it in the location, Zoom keeps trying to put the meeting back. Even if you cancel it, even if you do a million other things, for some reason it keeps trying to persist. But if you do it this way, where you remove the Zoom from the location and you remove the Zoom from the body, and then you add the Teams meeting, it works every time. Or single meetings. Any questions about that so far? No. Now, with recurring meetings, it can be a little more challenging. If your recurring meeting has the exact same description every single time, you haven't modified it meeting to meeting, then even if you've changed the times of some of the recurrences, this still works. You just need to remember that when you open up the recurring meeting, when it says just this one or the entire series, you need to remember to choose the entire series. Because if you choose just this one, then you're going to have to do each one individually. So that's the tip there. However, if your meeting, your recurring meeting, does have different content for each of the things, like if you've already put in future agendas and there are different agendas on different days, unfortunately, there's not a good way to clean that up and just very quickly, as I've done here, convert your Zoom meetings to Teams meetings. Unfortunately, you're going to need to go to each one of those modified ones. You can do the series as a whole, and any that are unmodified that match the series original will be converted, but any oddballs, unfortunately, you're going to have to copy the Teams meeting invite text, that block of text there. Sorry, that block of text there, and you're going to have to copy and paste it manually into any of those modified Teams invites, unfortunately. So I apologize in advance. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a less clunky way to make that happen. Any questions about scheduling Teams meetings? About any of this? No? All right. So the last thing that I wanted to tell you about was about where you can go to find more information. So we have done our best to write up a whole bunch of resources for you in the knowledge base. You could go to kb.bcit.ca/teams will take you to it. You could also search for Teams, but if I go to that, it will take me to this main article that has some frequently asked questions and so on, and also gives you links to the other resources that we've created. It also includes a bunch of links to some of the Microsoft support resources. These are some recorded video training that goes maybe more in depth on some features, some accessibility things, and also a big link to their big troubleshooting article, which has some really good information if you're struggling with your audio or things like that. And what we have doesn't solve it. We've added that link in there. Microsoft has a lot of documentation. We wanted to make sure that you felt well supported with information specific to the BCIT experience. So that's what's included here. But we've also added information wherever possible. We've linked out to Microsoft's documentation for a deeper dive on a topic or what have you. So this is the main article, but there's also this one, which is sort of our get started article, which has information about many of the things I said earlier: user status and presence, updating that, adding your pronouns, how the activity feed works, and also information on how to install Teams if you wish on your mobile device. You are, of course, not required to do that, but if you want to use Teams on your mobile device, it can be really useful. And it has the advantage that if you have it on there, and let's say your computer crashes in the middle of a meeting while your computer is restarted, you can actually rejoin the meeting just on your phone for a few minutes and not miss out on anything, that kind of thing. So that information is there. There's also an article all about meetings. This one here, so it's got a bunch of information on participating and that sort of thing, also on scheduling, and then a bunch of information also about how recordings work, which is quite a bit different, I think, than what you might have seen in Zoom, but there's a lot of really good information there about that. And finally, there's also an article about using Microsoft Teams for work group collaboration and communication, what I was mentioning about chat and channels and things like that. So there's quite a bit of information there. If you run into a problem, if you want to make a request to create an ad hoc team, any of those sorts of things, you would do that through the service catalog. So if you're not familiar, the BCIT IT Services Service Catalog has all of these big categories. Sorry, I can see there's, yeah, perfect. Big categories. The Teams one is under productivity and collaboration. And Teams, there we go. And each service catalog page will have some information, and if you have problems or what have you, it's got links here to forums that are going to ask you for really good information about your problem to better help the service desk to help you figure that out. So yeah, that's where you would go to request further help, to report an issue, any of those sorts of things. During the pilot and afterward, it's going to be the same. Of course, while we're in pilot mode, if you are using some of our documentation and you notice there's a problem or there's a big gap that you really feel we should be filling for you, or you notice a problem or inaccurate information, done our best, but you never know, it could happen. Part of what we're piloting is also our support process and our support materials. So I would encourage you, if you're looking at a knowledge base article and there's a problem with it, if you scroll down to the very, very bottom, every article will have a link at the bottom that says report a problem with this article. You would just click that. It's a mail link. Just fill in the email with what you think the problem is or your request for additional information or what have you, and send it. And that way we'll see that and we'll be able to address it sooner. All right. So that's all the information I have for you. Does anyone have any questions or concerns? Yes, Goran?
Just a couple of quick questions. Will students be licensed to host Teams meetings?
So they're still sorting out how Teams licensing may be extended to students, so I don't have a good answer for you on that yet.
Okay. Second question, with Zoom, I used to be able to take over a user's desktop when they're at home. Will I be able to have that functionality with a take control button there?
Yeah, I believe you could. So, so you're looking at my screen right now.
Okay.
Do you see that option anywhere?
I see an option to take control.
Right. Yeah. So there you go. That's how you would do it. I can't show it on mine because I don't have that option because I'm in control.
Okay. So I've sent you a control.
Yeah, as you ask, I got a little request here and I can deny it or I can give you control.
Okay, yeah. So when you give me control, what happens? I can use your mouse and keyboard?
Yes.
Okay.
With just in the screen that I am displaying. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's also applicable to the whole desktop, I would presume.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm displaying my whole screen, then that's what you're taking control of. If I was sharing just a window, you wouldn't be able to go beyond that.
Yeah, standard. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to stop the recording.